I've seen a lot of videos on here that talk about self-love, loving one's self, falling in love with yourself again, but I haven't seen a lot of them talk about respect or focusing on respect for one's self. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Millie. If you're a return viewer, thank you for stopping by again. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Don't be a stranger. Please hit the subscribe button and I will truly appreciate you. Now, today's video, we're going to be talking about how to respect yourself. Now, respecting yourself is very, very important because it's also connected to loving yourself. And this is not an overnight task that you can just wake up one day and say, I'm loving myself. It's a process. You take one step at a time. So that being said, here are the things that you can do to start respecting yourself or to respect yourself. I feel all the things that I'm going to be talking about here today are very important. So make sure you watch till the end. The first step that I'm going to be talking about is choose people who choose you. In this life, we will meet a lot of people. We will be acquainted with a lot of people, and most of them become friends. Most of them become partners. Most of them become part of our lives. Now, in order to choose people who are part of your lives, make sure they're choosing you too, because you don't want to be in a one-sided relationship. You have to be friends with someone who is also wanting to be friends with you. You have to choose someone that gravitates towards you. You don't want to be always chasing after someone who is not ready to be in your life. The next step that I'm going to be talking about goes hand in hand with my first step. It is stop looking for who is not looking for you. And that is pretty self-explanatory. If someone is not looking for you, if you have a friendship that you're always the one doing the calling, you're always the one messaging to find out how the next person is doing, they're not checking for you that much. So you need to advise yourself and maybe leave that relationship or friendship or whatever it is that you're in. That's the only way that it will show that you have self-respect. Now that brings me to my next tip. When people disrespect you, confront them immediately. Now, we're all human, and as long as you're a human, you're gonna offend the next person, and that's inevitable. So if someone offends you, you need to let them know how they made you feel, or what they said, how it made you feel. You don't want to go home and start thinking about, I should have said this, I could have said this. At that time, it might be too late. And so right there and then, if someone offends you or disrespects you, you have to earn your respect back by letting them know that what they did was disrespectful. And if they own up to it or don't own up to it, that's okay, because you've let them know that what they did was disrespectful. And that brings me to my next step. As much as we want to share information, we want to let people know what's going on in our lives, we need to learn how to stop oversharing. We need to learn when to say something and when not to say something. Sometimes it is hard because you might have some information that is so exciting you want to share with people, but before you share anything with people or before you say anything, you need to take a step back, think through it and say, is this even important? Is it necessary for me to say all of these things before you take action and say it? If you think it's important, do it. If you think it's not going to change the next person's life, then stay back and not say it. And there's certain things that you need to keep private, like your finances, your relationship. Now, if I say you need to keep private, I'm not saying don't tell people I'm in a relationship with this person. You could share that. Given details as to what happens in your daily life, we did this and we are doing this, and you don't need to explain what goes on in detail in your relationship. And that's the same for your finances. No one needs to know what's going on in your credit. No one needs to know that. Unless if you're an educator and you're using yourself as an example. Like for instance, I have a video on here that I talk about credit, and I shared how my credit was low and how I built it. I'm using that as an example to educate. So in that instant, it's actually helping someone. If I'm just coming on here to say, whoa, my credit was really low and yeah, and that's it, it's not helping anybody. So share what needs to be shared and keep almost everything private. And that's it. And that's how you respect yourself, because the things you say could be used against you, and people can use things you say to disrespect you. So in order to respect yourself, keep things private to yourself. And that brings me to my next step. Always look good. Dress how you would like to be addressed. Now, dressing for yourself and looking good is respecting yourself. Waking up, taking a shower, smelling good, dressing well, making sure your clothes are properly ironed is also respecting yourself. And when you do these things, it makes you feel good and you start loving yourself. Remember, the goal is to love ourselves, but you need to start with respecting yourself, and then you will start loving yourself. That brings me to my next step. Read and educate yourself. Now, this point, I find I speak about it a lot in my videos because I think it's very important that you continuously read and educate yourself. In this day and age, I feel that there is no excuse for you not to read, because books have been transformed into audiobooks. So even as you're doing your daily tasks, you can read, well, listen to audio books, and you can still absorb them just as you were to read it in a paper book. Now, one book that I can recommend for you to read is Atomic Habits. I read that book and I find it has changed my life. So you need to check out that book. Go to the bookstore, find the audio version, read that book, and transform your life. That brings me to my next step. Don't go where you're not invited. And even when you're invited, don't overstay your welcome. Now, this is also very self-explanatory. Let's say you know someone that is organizing a party, or there's a wedding, or there's an event, and you were not invited. Do not show up. Stay home. First of all, showing up is gonna cost you money anyways, because you need to dress up. You need to go there with your time that you could have invested into something else. When I was younger, I used to do that. And sometimes you go to a place and you see people looking at you with a side eye. It's not a good feeling. Stay home. Go, save your money, save your points. And when you go there too, do not overstay your welcome. If you see everyone leaving, get up and leave too. Don't stay till like everyone is gone. Unless if it's someone that you do those things in common with, you go to their house, you stay there for as long as you want. If you're not invited, do not show up. Stay home. Now, that brings me to my next step. Learn to spend money on yourself. And that's the only way people will spend money on you. My next step. Be a giver more than a receiver. Now, if you are a giver and if you're in need, God will always find a way to give you what you need. Last step. Lower your expectations. Even people you've saved or people you've rescued will turn on you. And that's a fact. So don't expect anything from anybody, and you're not gonna be disappointed. I'm gonna give you a bonus point. Unless a person owes you money, never call them more than 2 times. Okay? Unless if you're calling them for your money that they owe to you, don't call them more than 2 times. If you respect you, they'll call you back. Like, unless if it's your best friend and you know that you guys talk every day, whether she's doing the calling or you're doing the calling, and you've called and they're not answering, show up at their house. So follow these steps. Gradually, you will start respecting yourself and you will learn self-love through that. All right? So thank you so much for staying tuned. I truly appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. If this video was helpful for you, let me know in the comment section below. If there are things that you think I left out that will help people respect themselves, let me know in the comment section below, and that way we all learn from each other.